Okay, today's morning medicine is benzoni. I had this earlier. Come on. All right, there we go. We're going. Benzinum, benzoinum. Oops, sorry. Wrong one. That was yesterday's. That was tough to say, all them. And those are the hydrocarbons. Benzoinum odiferium, acidum, what's the other one? Benzoic acid and benzinum nitricum. Is there another one? So all them were in the hydrocarbons, which is gas and oil. Oh, dinitricum and benzinum, benzinum, dinitricum, benzinum nitricum, benzoic acid, benzoicum acidicum, and that was it. So those, benzoinum, this is a different one, which is spice bush. So the other ones, all them benzoicum, or no, yeah, benzoicum acidicum, all those were hydrocarbons. Benzoinum odoriferum, that's spice bush, which we grows right around here. Now today, so this starts into some plants now. Berberis aquifolium, the Oregon grape. Berberis aquifolium belongs to the Mahonia group of the barberry family. So those are all plant categories. It has been used by electics, which is healers back when, before, even way before homeopathy, and it was probably to do with alchemy, al- alchemy, alchemaic. Yeah, that would be right. Uh, Times when they were, healing in chronic syphilis. So those electics were using it for syphilis. Chronic skin diseases in scrophilus, which is tubercular stuff, cachexia, and for removing pimples from the faces of girls. I wonder what cachexia is. Let's do this. Cachexia. Hey, it did it. A general state of ill health involved great weight loss and muscle loss. Okay, so that's cachexia. You don't have to know all these things. You know what I mean? It's you eventually get to know some of them. You'll get to know this. I'm not even going to get into it. The heck with it. And for removing pimples from faces of girls. I wish I would have been able to help the one young lady I was taking singing lessons with. Uh, she's a pretty girl, and she had pimples all over her face. And I always think about that, people that are suffering. Just like this morning, my wife come in and said, "Oh, it's my lungs killing me or something," and she wanted me to do shiatsu on her, between her shoulder blades, and and she just come back from smoking a cigarette. Maybe that could be a problem, but you don't judge, and you observe, and you try to be helpful as much as you can. So I did shiatsu, and she might need a remedy to loosen that up. A tea made of the leaves of Berberis aquifolium, Mahonia, oh, that's the full name they're giving it, has a local reputation in the mountain typhoid. So for typhoid fever of the Rockies. And the provings of Berberis aquifolium shows febric symptoms, which is a fever, and a marked action on the spleen. Berberis aquifolium has a reputation for making a new man of an old one. That's like italicized, so that's an important thing, and I don't know what that is. I guess I don't know. Taking a tincture, a new man out of an old one. Well, I would have to look into that deeper. Hale reports a case of very advanced secondary syphilis cured with it. Not my words, their words. And some characteristic cases of psoriasis. So syphilis, psoriasis, so a lot of skin stuff. In all these conditions, Berberis aquifolium tincture has been given in 5 to 10 drop doses. So this is just a tincture. And of course, once that they know what's working according to folklore, which is what I just read, they do a proving to see if, to confirm, number one, to confirm what the, electics and all these people are using it for, and then to actually get some more symptoms out of it to see what else it's good for. Constitutions is psoric, which is skin, and psychotic, same, basically skin too. Constitutions, biliary types and allergic types. So they have allergic they get allergies. Types with a clear predominance of allergies with chronic mesothelial poisonings. Well, I'm not going to get into that. Allergies, great for allergies. So it's a big allergy remedy. And now I don't have it under my allergy one with the asthmas and all that kind of stuff, but that one would be allergies, also another one for allergies. So there's a lot of medicines that can be for, like these polycrest, these ones like this. It's good for skin, it's good for allergies, that's a main thing, but it's also good for spleen, kidney, all kinds of things like that. So Berberis Aquifolium, Oregon grape, skin, it's good for the skin, medical. Chronic catarrh, which is mucus, lots of thick mucus. Secondary syphilis, and that means you, not that you inherited, or I mean, you got syphilis from having sex, but you got syphilis from inherited, So in other words, the parents and that had it, and they had it healed by with drugs and that, and didn't quite get rid of it, but stopped the symptoms. And now you have it from inheriting the syphilitic miasm. Acne, all kinds of acne, psoriasis, dry eczema, so a lot of skin stuff. Keynotes of it is intense pulsating headache in the forehead, so it's a throbbing, pulsating forehead. Nausea and vomiting, and that's what they call bilious. I don't know if I'll be talking about bilious soon, and that's nausea and vomiting, pain in the bladder. So these are all keynotes for this. Rheumatic pains in joints of hands, worse, everything's worse at night. Psoriasis, that's skin stuff. Pain in sacral and lumbar region. These are all like keynotes of this thing. I think there's a mistake there, but the real keynotes is the nausea and vomiting and the intense headache. Those are the true keynotes. Better cold water. So I don't know. They like drinking cold water. They like to be in cold water. Worse in the evening and at night. That's a big keynote. Aggravation, especially at rest at night. So someone who can't sleep at night, they're aggravated by either skin symptoms or whatever. And prolonged movement. So as they keep doing things in a day and they keep moving, it just aggravates their symptoms. Unhappiness and depression comes on suddenly. Hysterical crying at times. So this is, anybody that's going through a depression, they'll and it could be a manic depression where they're up and they're great and they're happy, and then all of a sudden they're depressed. But it comes on suddenly, and they'll have hysterical crying. You can't stop them. They just keep crying, and it's only at certain times. They're nervous and restless, disinclined to move or do anything, and that's what that prolonged movement. Just they know that if they start going and doing things, all these symptoms are going to get worse. Dullness and stupidity of the mind. Uneasy feeling. And now, all these symptoms aren't going to be there all the time. It's, I was talking to that guy from Iceland again. And, I asked, I said, these symptoms, they're, constipation, diarrhea, and the same thing. Restless and yet relaxed, and this is different stages of the disease. They can have these things. So don't think they're constipated, they're diarrhea. Well, how could that be? But it's basically it's the different stages of the disease. I my mentor used Nat Mur saying Nat Mur starts out, they like salt a little too much. And they're really prim and proper and everything's neat and that. And then the second stage is a little worse. I forget what the second stage is, but the third stage is they're ripping their clothes off. They're not prim and proper anymore. They're Yeah, so those are the stages. So if I within that medicine, if I did not myrrh, and it said prim and proper, and then the next sentence it says ripping clothes off, that's the whole idea there. Uneasy feeling without desire to stool in the stomach, so they just feel like, yeah, they feel like they got a stool, but it doesn't. They don't have to go. Burning in spleen with soreness. So as you can see, great remedy for spleen. Once the spleen starts going, then you'll have a lot of these other situations. Pain in dorsal vertebrae and pain in sacrum. So the back, a lot of pain in the back. Oppression and weakness of upper part of chest. So it feels like their chest is, they can't, something's oppressing them and they're weak. They can't get the breath. Burning heat in lower left lung. So, yeah, that burning would remind me of apis and a few other ones. So you would, once you looked up, someone said, man, my left lung, I got this burning heat, feels like down in there. You would look it up and you'd get a few different medicines like arsenicum and Berberis aquifolium and probably a couple others. Feels eye is falling from socket. That's a very interesting symptom. Conjunctivitis is injected. So the infection isn't quite coming out of the eye, but it's injected in the eye. Aching in the eye. Feels there's film before the eyes. Looks hollow and weak. So the eyes have a hollow look and a weak and tired and burning sensation with it. So a lot of eye stuff with this. And that could do with the syphilis and all that. Acne and blotches, pimples, clear complexion. It clears the complexion. So Berberis aquifolium, anybody having acne problems and stuff, you might want to consider giving that. Because usually what it is, we think it's, we say, oh, it's the oils and things like that. Well, the oils is coming from what? From some other situation internally trying to push this stuff out. So when that, whatever's going on internally, we want to give a medicine that the vital force will rise up, fight that, push it out. The acne may get worse at first, and then it'll clear up. So anybody having acne and all that kind of stuff, you might want to consider Berberis aquifolium. We always try to put things on the outside. If you get this cream or this thing or that thing, even like wrinkles and stuff, we're like, okay, we get this cream and it takes care of it. Some of it does work, but you got to keep doing it. Whereas the food you're putting in will clear up, this whole could be this acne. And because I'm reading a book about a guy who does vitamins and different things to clear up the symptoms and changes the diet and that. And, the food you put in will cause you to have these symptoms and these situations, just like an allergy almost. So if you do change your diet, you might see this whole thing clear up. So, but it's always the body pushing things out. The face is yellowish white, pinched expression. I don't doubt there's some kidney stuff going on. Yeah. So there's kidney stuff going on. That's why they get that yellowish tint, almost like a jaundice. Pinched expression in the face. Slight burning in vagina, bearing down pain and aching as if menses were coming. So doesn't mean it's during the menses or the menses are coming. They just get this slight burning, bearing down pain in the and aching. And that's probably to do also be with the vertebrae, the pain in the vertebrae and sacrum. That pain's probably, all connected. Anorexia, aversion to food, because that's the other thing. We look at the person as a whole. We're not specialists like a hand specialist, which, it's good to have them, or a foot specialist, or it's basically, something's going on with your foot. That can be coming from the stomach stuff, that could be coming from your lung stuff, that could be coming from just about anywhere, any other situation. So there's always a connection between your pains, just like using shiatsu. If I hit a certain point up in your back, that'll go to the lung, that'll go to the down the arm, different points will go different areas, and you got all kinds of points in your foot that if you press on them, it's relates to different areas of your body, because everything is basically connected. just like humanity is. I just have to say that we're all connected. We're all on this planet, and we're flying through space, and we're all fighting over a little piece of ground, a little piece of food, more money, more of this, more of that. They're wrong, they're right. It's getting pretty nutty out there, and I would suggest everybody, you should get into my community. You should start learning how to utilize homeopathic medicine, because who knows what's going to be happening. I think there's a whole, they keep talking about a world order change, and America's going to be in a little bit of a situation. So you want to prepare and arm yourself. I'm glad I got homeopathic medicine, and I know some foraging and things like that. Uh, Anorexia aversion to food. Did I do that? Yeah. So anorexia, got a person that has anorexia, Berberis aquifolium, and there's aquifolium, yeah. And there's a few other medicines that would be for that. Hunger soon after eating with no desire for food. That's that. Yeah, even when they eat, and they probably not eating much if they have anorexia, but they get this. They still are hungry, but they have no desire for food. And then with this anorexia, they have just aversion to food. Sudden nausea after eating. So they eat and they feel nauseous, they feel hungry still, but they have no desire, and they have an aversion to food. So that's where that whole anorexia comes in. They just don't feel like eating, but they're hungry. And then if they do eat, they get nauseous. They might even throw up a lot of times. Feels like a band above the eyes. So like a band that's squeezing the head. That's a headache, of course. Bilious headache, and that's nausea. So this headache is obviously a gastric headache. Something in the stomach's going wrong and giving them that headache. Scald head, which is hair loss and scabs up there, the dandruff type of stuff. Hair feels stiff, cramping in forehead. It's interesting. Nothing in the heart. Kidney, stitching, cramping pains. Thick mucus and bright red mealy sediment. That's what I mean. There's something going on with the kidney, that they have yellowish tint to the face. And what else? Some other stuff. Well, I didn't get to nothing that. Numbness, no strength. Oh, sorry. Bright red mealy sediment. So they got this red sediment, like a brick color sediment, with thick mucus in their urine. Pain in kidneys, worse, seated. They don't like to be seated because it hurts their kidneys. With frequent need to urinate, with burning in bladder. Now, I wish I could ask my dad what's going on with him, because I gave him saw pimento. I forget what that medicine's name is. Anyways, I put that in a bottle of water for him yesterday, because he's been going and urinating a lot. And he was on two different prostate medicines, and one of them was making him so dizzy that he couldn't even get out of bed. He thought he was dying. So they took that one off of him. When I figured it out, I looked at his bottles of medicine, and then it went to prostate, and this one says it makes him dizzy. So they told the doctor, and the doctor discontinued that one. But anyway, and I'm going for dizzy medicines. What's going on with him? I give him the right medicines for, spinning, constant spinning and that. I forget which one it was. Colchicum, maybe? I don't know. Cholesynthesis? I don't know. One of them. Anyways, I gave him the medicine, but it wasn't helping. Then when I figured out it's his prostate's medicine, they got rid of it. He's better. He's doing fine. Now he's 90, so, he's probably got an enlarged prostate. And I gave him saw pimento yesterday, homeopathically prepared. He could probably take it herbally too. That might help him. You know what? I'm going to mention that to him. Yeah. But then again, the doctor, he'd have to ask his doctor, because whatever drugs he's on, you can't mix those things. But with homeopathic saw pimento, you can, because it's an energy medicine. It doesn't affect that. So, but this one here, frequent need to urinate. Now, if I could ask him, do you have burning going on when you urinate? Now, this is burning in the bladder, but a lot of times, what's it feel like? What's going on? If I could ask him some questions, which he won't. I mean, I tried. I did with my mom for a minute on some stuff, but I gotta be careful, because once they figure out that I'm trying to figure out a medicine for them, they'll freak out. You know, my mom's always like, "What do you think you're a doctor?" No, I'm not a doctor. I'm a healer. I know I can heal some things. But anyways, that's where it's at. I just have to try to guess. And you know, it's good for my education because a lot of times when you can't ask a patient a question and they're just laying there or whatever's going on, you have to observe, you know, and that really helps, you know, because I, when with my mom, when she had a flu, yeah, and she seems to get it every time in autumn. So I get that's another keynote. So every last year she got it around autumn, this year autumn. Then I just have to sit there and observe her symptoms, and then maybe I can ask, "Oh, Graham, what's going on? You know, what's up with this? What's up with that?" I can ask a few questions, but to sit there and write it down and actually take a case, she wouldn't go for that. They're just that goofy. They sometimes they're older, so like my wife said, they, you know, or the call is on, even they said, you know, old people revert back to their childhood or to even their childish behaviors, and there's a lot of that going on, and I got to remember that because you know, don't take it personally, you know. So, anyways, they have burning in the bladder, frequent urination, don't want to sit down, pain in the kidney, stitching cramps with thick mucus and red mealy sediment. What color's your urine? You know, you know, what's your urine look like? Oh, it's got bubbles in it. That would be mucus. Uh, and then if they said, oh, it's now this one says bright red. That's a major situation. But and a mealy sediment is the sediment's, you know, bigger. It's not just this little sediment. Rheumatic pains in the limbs, in the joints, hands and fingers. So the hands, anybody having rheumatism in the hands with swelling and that going on. Berberis aquifolium, numbness, no strength, so they can't grab things. That's another one my mom's got going on. She had carpal tunnel. They did surgery, didn't help. She still got this thing. She can't grab anything. So Berberis aquifolium can be like that. And you know, this is what happens. I start doing medicines, and you know, it just reminds me of people that I know that is struggling with things. Pain is severe in these joints, prickling like electricity. Back of hand, outside, and forearm. So there's the back of hand and outside of the forearm. They got this electric like pricking pain going on, along with these joints being swelled and numb. Rheumatic tension and stiffness of legs. So the legs also. But mainly the joints in the hands is a big one for Berberis aquifolium. Bilious colds. You know, they're nauseous with their colds. They get colds and they feel very nauseous. Expectoration is yellow green. Now, there's a lot of medicines that have green and a lot of medicines that have yellow, and a few of them that have yellow green. So, and it can be, you know, it can start out clear, go to yellow, and green is when it's really infected. And that's when it's called catarrh. When it's real thick like that, that's that catarrh. Dry, irritating cough, scanty, tenacious, blood-streaked expectoration. So there's a lot of blood. It's streaked with blood. So you know, there's a few medicines that would have that. And see, this is what happens: is you know, you're looking at it and you're saying, oh, they got a cold. They're nauseous. They have this color mucus, yellow green, and then it's got a little blood streak in it. You know, these things can help you to differentiate between other medicines that have yellow green. A lot of them don't have blood streaked. Um, they don't. Some of them may have an irritating cough, or some of them may feel nauseous. Others won't. So it helps to narrow down the medicines, because when you go into colds, you got a ton of medicines. Then you narrow it down with nausea. That you got a bunch more medicines. Then I'll do a comparative. I'll go to the chapter on mucus, and I'll look up yellow green mucus, and I'll get medicines there, and whatever's there. And in the colds with the nausea, whatever's there and there, basically I find the different, you know, there'll be like one or two medicines in there in each of them categories. I'll use them to go and go to the materia medica like we're in now and try to and figure out which medicine matches best. Then I'll use some of these other symptoms to say, oh, they say they got their head, they got scabs on their head, or they got the headache feels like a band, feels like something around above the eyes, a band squeezing the head, you know. And then when I do that, I'll narrow it down to one medicine and I'll give it to them. And usually a lot of times it works. If it doesn't, then I go back and I say, okay, what did I miss? It's not the medicine, it's what did I miss? What didn't I see in this case? Drawing pressure in testicles for the male. Fetid breath, so stinky breath. Blisters on the edge of the tongue, so any blisters thickly coated, yellowish brown or pasty white on the tongue. So either brown, yellowish brown or pasty white. Soreness of lower teeth and salivary glands. So the glands in the teeth, lower teeth are sore. Blood, okay, stuffy with discharge in the nose. So there's that greenish yellowish mucus again in the lungs, in the nose. Itching with desire to sneeze. So they got to, this could be an allergy. This could be, whatever, an infection, a cold, a flu, pneumonia, whatever it is. This is the symptoms that they're getting. They want to sneeze. Now that would be, there's a bunch of medicines that itching and sneezing. And when you go to the yellowish green mucus, you can determine, you can narrow the medicines down to a handful. Large dark stools, and that's the whole idea with the homeopathic medicine is you're looking at the person, you're observing everything, you're taking down the symptoms, and you're finding out what is the center of this case. Is it the headache? Is it the stomach ache? Is it the, what is it? What's the skin? Is it the skin stuff? What's going on with them? And usually the skin stuff is something internal, the spleen, the bladder, the kidney, whatever's going on. There's something down in the stomach going on that's causing them to have this. It could be the diet, it could be different things. But once you determine the center of the case and you get enough symptoms, now you go to that part in the repertory, under the head for headache, or under the stomach for stomach issues, which we'll get to in a second. Lung issues, lung stuff, chronic disc. Like I got chronic, every morning, wake up, I got this chronic, whatever, mucus that got to come out. But anyways, then you go to that section in the repertory and you look under there and you try to get, from stomach, you try to get down to, let's go lungs. From lungs, you try to get down to cough, dry irritating cough, or expert yellow-green mucus in the lung, coming out of the lungs. Try to get down, lungs, expectoration, color, yellow, green, you try to get it down there, and then you'll get to certain medicines. Then you get a few medicines, and now you go and to the materia medica, like we're in here, and you try to, you're trying to get 2 or 3 more symptoms. The food thing, or what else would you say? Abdomen stuff, uneasy feeling and that. You try to get a few more symptoms that match them medicines to figure out which one would be the best. And that's the whole idea. You're matching as close. A lot of times you don't get it exact, but you match it as close as you can, because everybody's an individual. These symptoms came from probably a dozen individuals or so. This other person you're talking to, they may have a lot more stuff going on, a lot different. I mean, large dark stools, hot diarrhea, light colored after loose stools. So it's very light colored, hot, and dark. It can be dark or it could be light colored. So that's why I say it depends on where you're at in the disease. Constipation, stools too large, expelled with difficulty, pimples on the skin. This is big. With dry, rough, scaly skin. That's a 3. Eruptions on scalp, extended to face and neck. So these are those eruptions on the neck and that. So these are both 3. Psoriasis, eczema, glandular indurations. So the glands will harden, different glands. Rashes, blisters, pustules, pupules, urticaria, amelioration from washing in cold water. That's what it is. They want to wash in cold water. That makes it takes away the itching and that. The breast, the tumor with pain. So any tumors, Berberis Aquifolium in the breast. Drowsy in the daytime, heartburn, nausea with vomiting with burning. nausea, hunger after eating, straining to vomit. So they're dry heaving basically. Daily rise in temperature and pulse, flashes of heat, burning in palms, heat and cheeks. So heat in cheeks, burning in palms, flashes of heat, and the temperature rises daily. This is a fever type of thing. Dry throat, choked with mucus, and they're hoarse. Dizzy, worse sleeping or moving. So they're dizzy and they can't sleep or move. They can't stay in bed. All right, I went over. I get into, I start thinking of things and I talk too much. JDWC in Recorder 1896. So Recorder was a magazine. Gives personal experience with doses of 10 to 15 drops a day. So he was overdosing himself. On the third day, he felt nausea and dull-headed. The third day, the guy I was on with in Iceland, he said, someone's taking a medicine. It's usually in threes. I said, well, it's not working that good yet or something. And then he said, wait for the third day. And even after the third day, wait till the seventh day, because 3, 6, 9. So on the third day, he felt nausea and dull-headed. Later, there was straining to vomit without vomiting. Then came a peculiar headache, strong compression as if band of iron, 2 inches wide, passed entirely around head, just above ears. It kept growing tighter and tighter. Strong black coffee relieved this after a time, but left him tremulous and nerves and unsteady in gait. Even after that, a single drop of, and we usually use coffee to antidote things too. Even after that, a single drop of Berberis Aquifolium on the tongue was sufficient to avert an attack of biliousness, which is nausea, when threatening, and saved him much trouble of the kind to which he had formerly been liable. That's what he's trying. Oh, so he wasn't proving it. He was trying to get over a nauseous situation he had. So he did too much, got all these symptoms, and now he takes one drop. What's it? One drop. Single drop on the tongue. Clark has verified its usefulness in secondary syphilis. So that's syphilis that's inherited. I wanted to get into this too. It's the comparative. Sulfur would be compared with this. Principal remedy for allergy with burning pains. So any burning pains and allergies, sulfur. Need for cold air, but aggravation from washing or bathing. So that would be the difference, because they like to bathe in cold air. Berberis does. Pain in lumbar and sacral regions with stiffness, dry, scaly, itching rashes. So that's all under sulfur. The only difference there, seemingly to me, is the bathing in cold water. They can't take aggravation from washing. Berberis wants to wash in cold water, relieves it. Serinum, this is a principal noso, and these are both big skin remedies, along with Berberis Aquifolium, for allergic conditions, chilliness, itching, sometimes fetid eruptions, which is smelly eruptions. Subject aggravated by the cold, but the eruptions is aggravated by the heat in bed. That's a big one. Occipital and frontal migraine improved by eating. Now, arsenicum's another one with the burning. And that's why I say you get these keynotes of burning in serinum, sulfur, Berberis Aquifolium, and arsenicum. Burning pains improved by heat. Nightly aggravations between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. That's a keynote for arsenicum. Scaly burning, itching rashes improved by hot, damp compresses. All right, I'm over. I'm going to quit elaborating on things or trying to, talking about like my dad and everything. But Berberis Aquifolium, good for all kinds of stomach issues, nausea issues, colds that are with nausea, just a lot of nausea with this. Skin, big skin remedy for all kinds of, scabs on the scalp, psoriasis, all that kind of stuff. And it's always dry, rough, scaly skin with pimples and everything. And there's nightly aggravations with this one. So secondary syphilis, so that's like a syphilitic miasm going on. All right, I'm way over. That is morning medicine. You can age, but you don't have to get old. Damn, I gotta quit elaborating on this stuff.